We're going to start talking about chapter 10.5. This is called completing the square, and we're going to solve quadratics using this. This is going to be helpful too because it's going to help us derive what's known as the quadratic equation, which we'll do in class later this week. But let's go ahead and talk about this, completing the square. First, let's look back at some perfect square binomials, and let's kind of review the pattern that these went through in order to the quick way of solving this. So really when you have something like x plus 7 squared, okay, what you're saying is this is x plus 7 times x plus 7, okay? And what we can do then is we can use our, the FOIL method, or you can use your box method, whatever works first. But we're going to do x times x, which is x squared, and we'll do x times 7, which is 7x. Then we do 7 times x, which is 7x. And again, you do 7 times 7, which is 49. So you're going to end up simplifying this to x squared plus 14x plus 49. Okay? And what you notice here is this middle term, right? This middle term, this 14, ends up being double this. Okay? All right? So if we look at it, the first term here, right? This x squared is this squared. Okay? The end term, this 49, is this part squared. And then the middle term is this times 2. Okay? And really what it is when this is 1, it's just double this value. Okay? So using that pattern, what we can do is we can quickly multiply this, and we can say, okay, well, you know what? It's going to be x squared, because I know that's x squared. And I know this is going to be negative 3 squared, so I'm going to end up with plus 9, because negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And then I'm going to get negative 3 double negative 3, which is negative 6, and that's going to be x. Okay, so that's your middle term there. Okay, well, it's important to know this because what we're going to do here is we're going to move on and we're going to start solving these things. Okay, and so I'm going to have a problem that's going to look like this. Okay, and I'm going to get x squared plus 6x, okay? And what I'm sort of showing you here is, in fact, let's go ahead and we can just kind of hide this for now. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to say, okay, what number am I going to put inside this circle that makes this whole thing a perfect square, okay? I'm going to fill in the value here, okay? I want to know what number will go in the circle here in order to make this thing a perfect square. And what that means is I'm really looking for some way of writing this as x plus some number squared, okay? Well, what we just figured out is this middle term here, right? This middle term, this thing here, okay, is double, right? Is this thing times 2, right? So this thing times 2 is here. So that means in order to go from 6x to this, I'm going to take half of it, okay? Right? If I take half of 6, I get 3. Okay? Right? Because remember, when you have x plus 3 squared, what I'm going to do is I take this value and I double it. Okay? To go here, you multiply by 2. So to come back, I'd take half. Okay? So once you take half, all right, now I know that this is going to be x plus 3. But in order to figure out what term I need or what number to put at the end, now I need to square it, which is why I put this arrow here. I'm going to take 3 and square it, and I get 3 squared, and that's going to be equal to 9. Okay? So what happens is the value I plug into the circle is going to be half of this, 3, squared, which is 9. And that makes this thing, it makes this a perfect square. It makes it x plus 3 squared, okay? And let's go ahead and check it, okay? So I'm going to take the number that we plugged in here, all right? The number that we put into the square, we put in 3, and we put in 3, and let's go ahead and multiply it. So we get, let's do x times x is x squared, okay? And then x times 3 is 3x, and then we're going to do 3 times x is 3x, and then we'll do 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, and then let's simplify, and we get x squared plus 6x plus 9. And that matches with what we have up here. So we get x squared plus 6x plus 9, okay? And that's the thing that we need to fill in. That's the number we need to fill in order to complete this square, okay? That's the idea here. Well, let's try another one. Okay, let's start here. We're going to have x squared plus 10x, and this is going to be equal to -8, all right? And this is where this is going to be helpful, okay? I'm going to solve this by using this idea of completing the square. So I'm going to say x squared plus 10x plus what number? What number do I need to plug in here in order to complete the square? Okay, now normally you'd take the -8 and put it over here and maybe try to factor it. In this case, I really don't think that's going to work. Or let's see. No, I don't think it's going to work. So we'll try completing the square here. Okay, and again, what the idea is, I'm going to look for what number can I put in here to make this a perfect square. Okay, it's going to turn it into x plus some number, and then this whole thing squared. So let's do this. Okay, we know that this term, we have to do half of this. Okay, so half of 10 is 5. Okay, well then if I take 5 and I square it, 5 squared is 25. So that means I need to put 25 here. Okay, so by putting 25 in here, I've now created a perfect square. So that makes this x plus 5 squared. Well, if I put 25 and I add it to this side, that means I need to add 25 to this side in order to keep this thing equal. Okay, so now I have 25, okay, minus 8. So let's go ahead and subtract. So I got 25. 25 minus 8 is going to be 17. Okay, so now I have x squared, or x plus 5 squared. Let's rewrite this. I have x plus 5 squared is equal to 17. Okay, now in order to solve this, I'm going to take the square root. Take the square root of this side, take the square root of that side, and that's going to give me x plus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 17. And now in order to find out what x is, I'll do x is equal to, all right, and I'll just subtract 5, so I'll go -5 plus or minus the square root of 17. All right, and from there, that looks pretty good. Okay, normally, like this answer right here, that answer is an exact answer. All right, this is without rounding. It is just an exact answer. Now, sometimes we do need to round it. So in this case, let's try rounding it to the nearest hundredth. And I'm going to have two values, right? I'm going to say x is equal to two things, because it's going to be -5 plus the square root of 17, -5 minus the square root of 17. Well, let's think about this. Let's just estimate. The square root of 17, okay, is going to be a little bit more than 4. Okay, we can basically just say it's going to be a little bit more than 4. So if you do -5 plus 4, you're going to end up real close to -1. And then if I do -5 minus the square root of 17, which is right minus about 4, I'm going to get a little bit more than 9. So let's just keep that in mind, and let's go ahead and we'll put in. Let's see. I think I have a calculator that I can use here. Let's look. We have a. Where is the calculator? That's in math tools, and there it is, calculator. So let's do this. We can do square root. So let's do. We'll do -5. We'll do 5 negative. Okay, and we'll add the square root of 17, or we'll take the 17 square root. Okay. So 3.46, and let's see. I don't know if I can just add. Yes, we'll add 5 negative. Okay, and we'll hit equals, and we get -1.53. Okay, wait a second. Hold on a second. I'm not believing that the square root of 17 is 3.4. So let's try this again. Let's do 17, and we'll take the square root of that. Okay, there we go. 4.12. That seems a little bit more likely. Okay, so we do 4.12, and then we're going to take this answer, and we'll say, we'll make this, let's see, we'll take this, and we'll add -5 negative equals -0.876. So we can go ahead and we can say this is -8 point, oops, sorry, -0.8, and I'm going to round that, so -0.88. All right. Well, let's try this again. Let's do this. Let's do. Okay, we're going to do square root, or we'll do 17 square root, and we'll make it negative. All right, and then we'll subtract 5. Okay, minus 5 equals, and there's our answer near 9. So negative 9.12. Okay, and these are our two answers if we wanted to round it to the nearest hundredth. Again, this would be okay to leave it like this, but if you're asked to round it to the nearest hundredth, then you actually have to calculate out the square root of 17. Okay, and this will be much easier on your calculators because your calculators, you can actually just put in the radical. It's going to be a lot easier. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's do one more example here. I'll try one, and let's just go ahead. Why don't you actually try doing it? Okay. Well, let me get you through the first step here. Okay. These always work much easier if you make the lead term 1, right? So this right now we have a lead term of 9, or a lead coefficient of 9. So let's try to make this 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just take this whole equation, divide by 9. So I get x squared plus 4x plus 11 over 9 is equal to 0. Okay. Now, when you do completing the square, it often is just easier to put whatever the blank is here, and let's move this to the other side. Okay. So I get negative 11 ninths. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's complete the square. Okay. So we're going to look here. 4. You take half of that. So we're going to say x plus half of this is 2. And we're going to say that's squared. Okay, then we take 2 and square it, and we get 4. And we're going to add 4. So then let's go ahead and add 4 to this side. Okay, now we've completed the square. And now we can say, okay, negative 11 ninths. And let's go ahead and we'll say plus, well, 4. If I make this over 9, this is going to be 36 over 9. Okay, so I get x plus 2 squared is equal to negative 11 plus 36 is 25 over 9. So now let's take the square root of both sides, and I'm going to get x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus, okay, 25 over 9. 25, square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 9 is 3, so that works out nicely. So x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 5 thirds. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's simplify this. So we can say x is equal to, okay, so let's see, negative 2, I could say this is going to be negative 6 thirds plus 5 thirds, okay, which is going to be x is equal to negative 1 third. Or we can do x is equal to negative 6 thirds minus 5 thirds, which is going to be x is equal to negative 11 thirds. Okay, and if what you see, I just took this. This is negative 2. This is the same as negative 2. I just made the denominators the same so I could add the numerators. Okay, so there you have it. That's another example. Hopefully you have enough tricks on your sleeve now to go ahead and do try completing the square. If you get stuck, just come back to the video. Try to watch again. I think those previous steps where I put the arrows in, I think that should help again. Here's the assignment. Go ahead, complete these problems. And then tomorrow we'll have a little bit of time in class that we can go over some of these. And yeah, you should be good. All right, good luck.